Welcome back, everybody, to episode 11 of The Final Howl. And I'm Zach Feigert. And on this week's episode, I'm going to kind of go more into depth on my stand setups, what I'm looking for as far as wind, call placement, and how I expect the coyotes to work in. So, if you're watching the video on this, I'm going to have some clips of my Deercast maps that I bring up, and I'll kind of have some arrows and stuff pointing. You can, where the wind features at, that's where I'm pretty much set up at or close to it. And then I'll have a little box showing where the call placement is. And then I'll have clips of the actual coyotes coming in and the kills and how they worked in for the call. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with this setup here. This stand, I have an east wind. It's a 3 mile an hour east wind. So when I'm looking at this on my maps, if you're looking on here, if you're watching the video, you can see straight north of me is a big pond, lake, marsh area. There's a hog barn and stuff off to my west, and then a big block of timber further north. So I'm kind of anticipating these coyotes be mousing out in these waterways and that timber. So with an east wind setup here, I'm going to place that call about 25 to 30 yards straight in front of me, and then to my right, upwind, about another 15 to 20 yards. And I'm in hopes that these coyotes come out and they're going to try to get downwind of that call, and I'm going to cut them off before they get to it. So we go in, we go in, get set up, start playing the call. I think I started off with just some light distress, just so in case there's something closer than anticipating, I'm not really blowing out its eardrums. Play distress for probably 2 or 3 minutes on this stand, and then switch to a pup distress. And here they came out of that big block of timber. If you can notice, you can see 3 of them in the video now, and they come straight out and they work that hook downwind into that call. And then a 4th one appears, and Bill's over there to my right. So generally what we do when we get multiples come in, we just get the first 2, and I always say, "You ready?" Yep, he's ready.
Ready?
He goes off the sound of my gun. We drop 2 of them, and instead of just unloading our guns at the other 2 running away, we just kind of look at it as we got 2 of the 4. We'll come back in a couple weeks, month, and possibly call in the other 2. There's no sense getting crazy with it. So that's kind of a general idea of how that stand worked out for us and how I set up on that particular setup. And then moving on to this next one, we have a north-northwest wind at 3 mile an hour. We're kind of sitting up on a little hill, and we're overlooking about a 80 to 100 acre field that rolls away from us, and then big blocks of timber that goes back into a river. So using that crosswind, I'm anticipating these coyotes coming from straight in front of us. We have a couple big buildings, a grain setup, just a big home farm, big cattle lot, stuff off to our south there. And I don't ever really see coyotes come from that direction. So I'm just really focused on them coming straight out in front of us. So we placed the call about the exact same way, about 10, 15 yards in front of us, then back upwind another 15 to 20 yards. So that way when the coyotes come in downwind, or even if they try to get past our wind, we should be able to get a shot at them because we're sitting a little elevated. And if they decide they want to work the kind of low ground to us, we should be above. This is definitely a spot. I want to say that before I get too carried away. This spot here, you're kind of in the wide open. So this particular setup here is terrible if you got any kind of moonlight. If that moon's overhead, full moon especially. So this spot here, I generally only call on the dark of the moon with a good northwest wind like this. If I've tried calling it on different winds and little different scenarios, and it's never worked out as good as a north wind in the dark of the moon. So we get the call set up, upwind, 15, 20 yards, out in front of us, 15, 20 yards. I start off with some light prey distress. Rabbit, I believe, is what I started off with. Nothing. And then I just hit a pair howl. And within 10 seconds, they were cutting me off. So I stopped, and then I went to a little bit more aggressive female howl. They cut me right off again. And then I stopped it. I waited about 3 minutes or so, and then I went into a pup distress. And that triple, there was 3 of them. They come ripping out of that timber back there. And if you notice in the video here, that lead coyote is working downwind. It's kind of working that depression out in the field I was talking about.
Are you ready?
So we just kind of let it go.
Whenever you're ready.
And we really focus on this double because we figured that dog's going to get our wind more than likely.
Ready.
Because there was a little bit more west in that wind than we'd like. Plus there's a house back there. So we just let that dog pretty much go on by us, get our wind. It was out of there. And the back one, you see, it hangs up. It just sits down. And that middle dog it's coming. It's committed. It gets, I think, 30, 40 yards. I howl, get it to stop. Boom. Get it. Worked out perfect. Should have maybe tried to shoot at that second one, but that was like 350 yards out there running. Again, I'm not real big on just unloading my clips unless it's just a good solid shot. I've learned over the years you're a lot more effective when they're standing still, and you know if you're going to fling a bullet down range, make it a kill shot, and you're doing good. So, onto this third setup here. We have a northeast wind at 4 miles an hour. And we get set up. I'm anticipating here, I'm kind of sitting, again, up on a hill, and everything away from me just rolls down. It's just, a giant rolling hill, and goes into a big flat. And there's a big block of swampy timber kind of off to our northwest. So, again, we place the call about 15, 20 yards upwind and 15 and 20 out in front of us. And I believe I start off here with just like a lone howl. and had this pair open up. And as soon as they get done talking, I think I might have howled back to them one more time. They howl right back, so they're interested. I just flipped to a rabbit distress, and within, I think, 2 to 3 minutes, we see them coming way off into the distance. And these coyotes here, they didn't really commit. I don't know if they seen us once they broke up over that hill, but they started getting a little leery, because you can kind of tell in the video where that one comes up over the hill and it just stops. It's looking back behind it for its mate, and then just really using that to its advantage, looking back at us. At this point, they're about 180 to 200, and I knew the way our wind was blowing, it for sure was going to get our wind. So I went ahead, I took the shot, got him, and the other one got away. But the way these coyotes were working in, I guess that's kind of the way I like to set up, by giving them a little bit of wind, is if they don't just come barreling in perfect right off the get-go, you're better off just to get one. That's what we're here for, and get it over with. So that's, in a quick kind of rundown way. It's hard to really explain a scenario on what sounds, when to use them. I mean, I'm no expert by any means. I just kind of have screwed up enough to where I got to kind of be in the situation to understand what's happening and what to throw at them. I do know personally, when I started using this kind of stand technique on giving them, or letting them think that they have the wind when they're coming to that call. I've said it a dozen times now, is just always remember they are coming to that call, not you. So if you're using an e-caller, man, that's a huge benefit, is you can get that thing upwind and far away from you, to where those coyotes are coming in, and that helps distract them away from you. They're looking for it. They're looking for that sound. They're going to try to come downwind of it. So just getting yourself in that position to where you're going to be between the coyote and the call. The mapping features, I love this Deercast app. For me, is the best tool, best app I have found. The wind feature in it it's pretty dang accurate. I mean, I know there's a lot of them out there, but this, when you can actually see your wind cone, when you got a 10-mile-an-hour wind, you can see that thing tighten up, or a 1-mile-an-hour wind, you know, how it's just hovering around you. Now, you got to take in consideration, you know, the woods, the hills, you know, the terrain is going to mess with your wind. I mean, I say it along with everybody else. I mean, just, what was that, just last week before? When you get those 1-2 mile an hour winds, it says it's a south wind. You get out of the truck and it's a dang north wind or an east wind. Nothing can compare to the actual situation, or standing out in the field and feeling it. I know, like when we hunted the tournament last weekend, we had that 1 mile an hour, 2 mile an hour wind situation. So I would just tip my head back and kind of huff and get, steam to come out of my mouth, and then shine a light on it and you'd see which way it was drifting. So little things like that, little tricks of just knowing, okay, once I get to my spot, I can kind of, that's the way our scent's going. We need to move the call up over here. I'm anticipating the coyotes being out in this general area, so they're going to try to work downwind of this call. We need to get in between them somehow. Now, it seems like these coyotes are getting a little bit slicker on the fact of, I'm pretty sure almost every coyote we killed in the tournament, like we got 6 last weekend in that night tournament, that one night tournament. And every coyote we seen, besides 2 that we shot that actually committed and came in, rest of them were 200 yards, almost straight downwind every time. We don't have too many in my area anyways. Getting those ones that just come charging in are getting far and few in between. So I'm going to probably start expanding that. I'm going to probably be pushing the boundaries on this remote and that call, and I'm going to try to probably get 150 yards downwind of my call. And, worst case scenario, they're going to come between me and the call, but that's fine. I mean, I'll still get them. But if they're going to try to get 200 yards downwind, and I'm already sitting 100, 125 yards out there downwind, at least I'm only going to have a 75, 100-yard shot then. I like to try to get close to them, personally. We have a lot of rolling hills. I hunt a lot of rolling hills. So anybody knows it's hunted them at night. How many times have you seen them come ripping across the field and, they just disappear? Then all of a sudden, 100 yards later, they pop up behind you. I mean, it only takes a 3-foot depression out in the field, and that coyote's disappearing till he comes back up. So just do your best to study, use these maps, go out into the field, use these wind features, and see, okay, hey, I'm a nighttime hunter, so this is primarily tips for nighttime, but go out during the day, stand at your spot where you'd like to call, because you can go out a couple days in advance with this wind. So if hey, I'm going to go calling coyotes tonight, I don't have anything going on here in the middle of the day, run out to your spot, pull up Deercast, pull up the wind check, and then just fast forward to where you can see, you can go out 4 days, it looks like, I believe. I think you can go out 3 to 4 days on that and get a good idea. And another thing is when you got this wind check up, you can see your cloud cover. So when you're hunting on a full moon, you can see like, oh man, hey, it's going to be cloudy tonight. I got 100% clouds. Odds are you're not going to have to worry about the moon as much then. You can get by with a little more. You can see what time that moon is rising and setting. So when you're planning your night of calling, you can look on your Deercast and see, hey, the moon's not rising till 1 a.m. or it's setting at 1 a.m. So these spots that are really good, I just don't have good cover, save those for when there's going to be clouds or the moon's already set. There's just a lot of cool things. I'm not affiliated by any means. Deercast has never given me anything. I'm a deer hunter. When they came out with Deercast, what's that, 4 or 5 years ago now, 6 maybe, however long it's been, I just remember like, oh, this is a pretty cool app, so I got it. Started messing around with it. And then as they were advancing with their maps and everything else and all these features inside of it, I thought, wow, I could use that for coyote hunting. Heck yeah. So I know that there's a handful of guys around here that I've hunted with that are using it pretty religious now for their coyote hunting, dropping their pins on your stands, knowing this is where I need to sit for a north wind. This is where I need to sit for a south wind. And then eventually you get to a point to where you've got all you got all these notes down, you got all your pins dropped. So you're just probably not going to have to open your app much because you got it memorized. Or when it's 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and you're hunting a tournament and you're, sitting there and you're down, I don't know, an hour from home or whatever, and the calling's been slow and dead, you can start bringing it up, have all your pins dropped. You can leave notes in there and know, hey, let's just head up over this way. Let's jump a county over. I got 5 or 6 spots over there that are going to work perfect for this wind. So I guess it's kind of the long way of going about saying just make sure you're paying close attention to what your wind's doing and what your thermals are doing. On those nights, it's an extremely low pressure night and it's a 2-mile-an-hour wind. Man, your thermals are probably going to suck down into the, drainages or low spots in the field. I can't say enough. It's like the campfire theory with your thermals. Just think about sitting in your backyard or at the campground when it's a super high pressure night and it's a 5-6 mile an hour wind. You watch that smoke go up and out and it's gone. When it's real low pressure and cloudy or storm or something's going on, then everything, you just see that smoke just sit there and hang. That's your thermals. So that's a huge tip. It's things I've picked up over the years, just paying attention to man, why these guys, there's no way they seen me. How'd they smell me? It's not, you start kind of carrying things with you and checking it out and diving deep into it. It's I bet it's because that's why they're working that low ground. They're getting my thermals. So just find the best app you're comfortable with. I highly recommend Deercast. It does me a great job. I never have problems with it. For all the weather apps and hunting map apps out there, I'd say this is one of the best for sure. That wind feature is the money. It is the ticket to be able to see, to give you a real good general idea of what your wind is doing. Because you can move this thing around. You can be like, hey, I'm sitting here, my wind's doing this. So you can kind of drop a pin there, slide that up, and then be like, okay, hey, if I put the call there and these coyotes are coming from there, odds are they're going to come in downwind to it, so I need to be over here. It gives you more of that visual when you're scouting a new property. That's just that tool in the bag to me that kind of helps take you to that next level. Nothing can beat old school, old-fashioned woodsmanship. I also want to make that point clear. This is not the do-all, end-all. You're not going to get this app and just wake up tomorrow or to go out tomorrow night and put 20 dogs in the back of your truck. That's probably not going to happen. It doesn't replace woodsmanship and time out in the field. Taken from your mistakes, watching the videos, understanding when you go into a setup what those coyotes did. This is what I'd like to challenge everybody to do. It doesn't matter what your skill set is. When you're on a stand and you call in, so let's just say you got a double coming in, and man, they're ripping across the field to your call. And like we've all seen, they get to a certain point, bam, they turn on a dime and they're out of your life just as fast as they came into your life. I want you to go back to your truck or whatever it is, open up, hopefully it's Deercast, but open up your mapping agent, the Weather Channel app, whatever it is. Drop a pin where you were standing, drop a pin where that call was, and then see which way the wind was blowing. And I almost guarantee you, if you open up that Deercast app and you see that wind cone and you drop a pin where those coyotes turned on a dime, I bet you it's going to be within feet of where that wind cone is. Or if it's a real low pressure night and you look over at neighbor Bob's chimney, because he's got a fire going that night because it's 10 degrees and he's trying to keep his wife warm, and you see that smoke coming out of his chimney going about 20 feet and then going straight down towards the ground, and then you see where those coyotes turned on a dime, see if that spot's not lower to where you're standing, regardless of which way that wind's blowing. Just seeing if it's lower than where you're standing. And then think, man, my thermals could have pushed that way. Really, I learned so much more from not killing than I do killing. The day I realized, hey, instead of getting pissed off that triple took off runner, or that quad did, or that single, whatever, when I started looking back into depth, opening my maps and being like, why in the hell did these coyotes not come? That's when I started understanding the wind game. It opened my eyes big time. And then it started helping me become more successful, because now I just won't call a spot. If all those things don't add up perfect for me, I'm going somewhere else. And if you know what? If I open my maps, somebody calls me, Brandon calls me, Bill calls me, my brother, whoever calls me and says, hey, you want to go call coyotes tonight? I don't know. Let me look. I look at all my spots. If I don't have a handful of spots that are good and they don't, no, I'm not going to go. It's just not right. Not going to go. Or, hey, we're going to skip all these spots and I won't, these are the only spots good enough for me. I'm not going to call just to call anymore. I guess I kind of got burnt out on that. I'm going to be effective. I'm going to get into a spot, do what I need to do, and get right back out and go on to the next. Disturb it as least amount as I possibly have to. I don't want those coyotes. If a triple comes in and I only get one, I just hope those other two only heard that one shot and they don't know where Sally went. So, as far as sounds go, just play. Just call. There's no magical sound. I don't believe there ever will be a magical sound. You can talk to these 10 coyote killing machines and those guys be like, I don't play vocals. I don't play pup distresses. I use rabbit only. And you know what? I'll see those guys stack them in the back of the truck, the same as the guy that stands over here and says, you're stupid. You only use vocals this time of year. And he'll stack them in the back of a truck. But you can't tell me that either one's wrong when they're both killing. So just go out, turn your call on, mid-volume, and play a rabbit distress. In my mind, it's play light rabbit. That way, if something's just sitting around and it's maybe not in the mood to fight, but it's just in the mood to eat, it'll come. Play it for 3 or 4 minutes. Nothing shows up. I either go to a howl or sometimes I go straight to pup distress. A lot of times I just go straight to pup distress. Within 2 or 3 minutes, something generally comes. I don't spend too much time on stands. There's a lot of guys out there that preach, quality over quantity. I get it. I'm just an impatient person. If you're with me turkey hunting, same way. I don't deer hunt when I coyote hunt, and I don't deer hunt when I turkey hunt. I do enough of that from October till December. I'm a 15, 20-minute guy. That's just, unless something's working. If something's working, I'll sit there all day with the best of them. But if I don't see a coyote and I don't hear any coyotes, I'm packed up and I'm out of there. On to the next. So find your groove, find your style, and find your rhythm of calls that you like. They work for you. Confidence is the biggest thing in the world, man. If you're confident in that, then just stay with it. Just don't get in a rut and think you got to do the exact same thing every time. Mix it up. Mix up throw woodpecker at them. I know there's not a jackrabbit within probably 500 miles of northern Indiana. But I tell you what, I've always had more success on jackrabbit sounds than I have cottontail sounds. A lightning jack, still OG. I mean, I run a lucky duck now, so I don't believe you can put lightning jack on a lucky duck. But if there was a way, if somebody knows how to do that, let me know. I love lightning jack. But, woodpecker, hen pheasant, chicken, vole. I mean, any kind of distress sound, man, it's if they're hungry for it and they're in the mood, they'll come. A lot of pup distresses, and from my experience, I killed a lot of females more than I do males. Because I think that's just their, motherly instinct personally. Now you get into the more aggressive, like coyote fights, then I tend to get more males, especially when you start getting into the latter part of, or more into breeding season and through January and towards the end of January into February, you'll start getting more males. I'm assuming that's because they're more territorial. I really don't know. I know you listen to guys like Tory Cook or John Collins and them like that, those are the guys to listen to when it comes to that stuff. I mean, they're great. They're extremely smart when it comes to how coyotes react in their vocalizations. I don't really know. But anyway, I hope this helps out somebody. The guys that have reached out to me, I hope this kind of shows a little bit more on what my setups are. It's just so hard for me. I can't really go out and film and make it, good enough. I don't have those kind of skills. So hopefully by just showing you basically a screenshot of my Deercast, putting it on the screen here, you can go back and look. Also, if you go over on our YouTube channel, I got a couple videos in there about wind, a couple really cool examples of a triple we got one night, how we walked in There was a coyote laying out there. We called that coyote in, shot it, and then kept playing the call and brought a double in and shot that double basically right over top of that single. And just, that was a lot of luck. And at the same time, I think the understanding of how we were using the wind and the call volume, all that came into play, and it was a flawless trip. I mean, it was awesome. We doubled up a couple weekends ago. We get to a spot, start playing real light distress, had a double came in, shot that double. We weren't on the stand a couple minutes, decided, hey, we're just going to keep playing. So I played a couple more minutes of distress, flipped to a pup distress, and brought in another double from about 700-800 yards out, come ripping across the field. We shot and dropped that double. And then it was about 2 minutes after that, we're sitting there celebrating, and they keep ripping off again back in the woods. I howled back and forth with them a couple times and thought, well, you know, we've pushed our luck far enough here. Like, that was awesome. I'm sure they were probably howling at the gunshots. We made 4 shots and had 4 dead coyotes, but I'm sure they heard them. But anyhow, everybody out there, we really appreciate you listening. And if you can, please go over to our Instagram. It's the Final How Podcast. On Facebook, we got a private Facebook group. It's the Final How Podcast. And then our YouTube channel. Got a lot of cool videos over there. If you can, just subscribe, follow on all those if you could. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And finally, Merry Christmas, everybody. And remember, shoot your guns. Make sure you're sighted in before you go out. And go shoot straight.